Okay, we want to welcome everyone to today's session. Still got a few people that are coming in the waiting room, but we're going to go ahead to keep everybody on time. Go ahead and get some of our housekeeping items done and our introductions. The chat feature will be available, so if you have questions, please type over in the chat, and then we will get those addressed as we go along in this session. Also, just as well, if I'm going to post when I'm through talking a link for kind of a check-in sheet. It's a sign-in sheet, so we have an idea of accurately who participated in today's session. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead, for those of you that are joining us, this session, hopefully you're in the right session, is College Application 101, the key components of the application. Today with us, we have Arnulfo Gonzalez. He's our Extension Program Specialist with our Rural Student Success Initiative. So at this time, I'm going to turn the program over to Arnulfo. Again, watch the chat for a link a couple of times that we have. We'll be posting so that you can sign in, so we make sure we have an accurate record of who participated. This also enters you in for a chance at our drawings. We're going to be giving some door prizes away. Later this week, we'll make those announcements. We have some AirPods and some JBL speakers, some $100 gift cards that has been sponsored by our Ag Workers Insurance. So lots of fun things. So be sure and sign up on the form site so we have your name and information. And at this time, Arnulfo, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Awesome. Can y'all hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, awesome. Well, good morning, and thank y'all for joining me today. Thank you so much for that introduction, Jana. My name is Arnulfo Gonzalez, and I am a program specialist. Today, we will be going over the college application and some of the key components of the application with y'all. Alrighty, just as a quick overview, we will be discussing the type of applications that are available for y'all, the application fees, how to send out the official transcripts to the universities from your high schools. We will also be discussing test scores, for example, like the SATs and ACTs, which ones are required by the universities and which ones you should take. Also, we will be discussing some tips on your college essay and if the universities do require a personal statement. And last but not least would be requesting letters of recommendations, what type of letters and who you should be requesting these from. Just as a quick overview, I want to go over the types of colleges that are out there. We can kind of separate these universities by categories. The first one would be technical and vocational schools. Typically, these schools range from 6 to 2 years to complete a degree plan. Normally, these are schools that are more hands-on. They provide more direct training in a particular field. For example, you will traditionally find a lot of your culinary arts, a lot of your welding, cosmetology, information technology. These are the type of degrees that you would normally find in a technical or vocational school. And like I said earlier, they do normally range from 6 months to 2 years, depending on the vocational or technical school that you're wanting to attend. Another group are community colleges, or you might also hear them as junior colleges. They tend to award 2-year associate degrees, but they also do provide, some of these institutions do provide technical certifications. They do have these are open access institutions, meaning that they do not deny students from applying in admissions. Normally, students at these community colleges do, normally they transfer out to a four-year school. So you can either stay and get your associate's degree, or the advisors at these colleges can help you take the courses that would transfer into a four-year college. The other, besides a two-year, is a four-year college, and four-year colleges can be separated between public and private. One of just the big differences between a public school and a private school is that public schools are traditionally funded by federal and state funds. Private schools, they receive less funding in regards to federal and state funds, which is why sometimes you'll see that their pricing is a little bit higher. When you are applying to these colleges, private schools tend to be a little bit more costly, and it's mainly for that reason. They receive a lot less funding from the state and federal funds, so they tend to charge a little bit more in pricing, but traditionally they also offer the same type of degrees as a public university, four-year university. For example, education, engineering, political science, business, or even agriculture. And the last one that I have here is for-profit universities. Within for-profit universities, you will also find your 2 years, your technical, and your four-year universities. Only that I just want you guys to keep in mind that a for-profit university, they tend to work more like a business. So they they tend to work more like a business. So just to take that into consideration. So their costs might be a little bit higher as well as a private school. But when you are doing your researching and trying to identify schools or finding schools that you're interested in applying, take that into consideration. Look and see if it's a private, a public school, if it's a profit or a nonprofit. It's best to always take that into consideration when starting your career path and trying to find what type of university you're looking into applying to. That's just a quick overview, just in the type of colleges that are out there. There are technical and vocational. There's community colleges or junior colleges for 2 years. For four-year colleges, they tend to be public or private, and also just identifying if these schools that you are applying to, if they are a for-profit or a nonprofit. For some people, that is a big deal. So I just, make sure and I advise my students just to take that into consideration. All right, so how to apply. So there are, like I said before, there's various different types of universities, but there's some similarities within all these colleges. For example, there's 3 types of applications that are out there. One of the type of applications is the Apply Texas. And that is commonly known around here, specifically in Texas. 130 schools, universities, and colleges in Texas participate and use the Apply Texas. The other application is the Common Application. That is more of a nationwide application for universities. 750 universities nationwide participate in the Common Application. Now, you will have some schools here in Texas that will use the Apply Texas, but also the Common App as well. Traditionally, the Common App in Texas is normally used by your private institutions. So I always recommend, if you are applying to one of these colleges, go to their website, look to see if they have a preferred application, but traditionally they will accept both the Apply Texas and the Common Application. The third option is the Individual College Application. This is traditionally used by your junior colleges or your junior or community colleges. Some universities have their own. For example, I know like Baylor University, they have their own application, but they also use the Apply Texas. So it's always best, check the website, check the admissions website for the universities, and just review the requirements, and see what other options are out there in applying. Traditionally, the Apply Texas, the common application, and individual college applications are three ways of applying to the universities here in Texas. Now, if you are wanting to leave Texas and apply to other states, they might use the common app. If not, they might have their own version of their own personal college application that you might need to complete. So now that you know about the application, one of the big things with students is identifying colleges that you want to apply to. I always recommend that you at least identify 10 schools that you're interested in knowing more information about. Once you've identified those 10 schools, it's always best to kind of narrow them down to about 4 to 8 schools. You want to know what kind of degrees you're interested in applying to and narrowing down those schools so that way you can focus on those applications. Now, when you're identifying your 4 to 8 schools to apply to, one of the rule of thumb is to identify some schools that are safe schools, target schools, and dream schools. So what's the difference? Dream schools are colleges that are a little bit more challenging. You might not meet the admission requirements or the standards. Maybe your GPA or your test scores are a little bit low, but I always recommend applying to your dream schools. You never know. Sometimes a lot of these schools, they use a holistic review, meaning they take into consideration factors like community service, extracurricular activities, your background, your essays. So sometimes these other type of factors can play a role and can actually get you accepted into your dream school. So don't disregard those. If you have a dream school that you've always wanted to go to, they have the major you want, I recommend still apply. They might review your application holistically. Now the next one is target schools. These are colleges that more likely you meet the standards. You have the GPA, you have the SAT scores to get in. These, I don't want to say that you're guaranteed that you'll get accepted, because there might be a chance that you might not. That's why we identify these as your target schools. These are the schools that ideally you would be able to get into in regards to your GPA and your scores and other factors that play a role. Now, safe schools. Sometimes you'll hear these as your foundation schools. Normally, these are like your junior colleges or community colleges. You have a high chance of getting in. Normally, these junior colleges, you've already reached their academic standards required by the school. So it's always the best practice is always to apply to a couple target schools, a couple dream schools, and also safe schools. I know a lot of students, when completing the application, sometimes they just want to leave outside from their towns, or they want to go somewhere a little bit further. But it's always as a backup, it's always to have a safe school, because you never know what could happen. You might not be able to go to your dream school university for whatever reason, but you've at least submitted the application to one of your safe schools there locally, like your junior college or your community college, that you can fall back on and at least start going to a university and then transferring out. So as a recap, always identify about 10 schools, narrow it down to about 4 to 8 schools. I always tell students, find the schools that have a major or have a degree that is of interest to you, and not just a school that you just want to apply to because all your friends are applying to. Application fees. So yes, so once you've narrowed down your schools to about 4 to 8 schools, and this is why I tend to narrow them down a bit, most of these universities will have a fee associated to the application. They can range from 0 to 75. So some universities, they will not have an application fee. It does not cost you anything to apply. but you will have some other institutions that they will charge you up to $75 just to submit an application. So if you're not so serious or you're not sure about a school, take into consideration that you will be paying for the university's application if they have a fee. So yeah, just make sure you aren't applying to schools just for the sake of applying. Apply because you're interested in getting accepted, and it's one of those top schools for whatever degree you're planning on attending. So I've heard, as a previous college advisor, I would always hear parents and students asking, why does one school have an application fee of $75 or $55, and another school, it's totally free? Well, normally in order for schools to process your applications and to have people review your essays and your scholarships, they have to staff these individuals. So some schools will absorb the costs to help with the application process and hiring of individuals. Some other schools will put this on as an application fee, just to reduce some of the costs for the process. Now, if you are a student or a campus that is free and reduced lunch that is being offered, either the district or the high school offers free and reduced, check with your counselors, because if you are marked as free and reduced campus or as a district-wide campus free and reduced, you may qualify for a fee waiver. So depending on the campus and the fees for the university, they may be waived. So you may qualify for a fee waiver for each university, and you might not have to pay anything. So you might be able to apply to those additional schools that you're interested in that you might not have applied to because of the fee. So please check with your counselors at your local high school and find out if your campus is free and reduced district-wide, because that is something that a resource that you guys can use. If you don't have to pay, don't pay. So check with your counselors to see if your campus is free and reduced, and see what the documentation that you need to submit in order to get your fees waived. I know when you submit your application through Apply Texas and the Common App, there is a section that will ask, will you be using a fee waiver? If you've already previously spoken with your counselor and you know that you qualify, you can go ahead and mark that you are, so that way they're not expecting that fee and they won't put a hold on your application. Transcripts. So colleges accept transcripts two different ways. So they accept a sealed hard copy, or they can accept an electronic version. So you need to talk to your counselor and find out if your school offers electronic transcripts. If they do, then your high school can send them electronically to the university. Now, if they don't, then it has to be a sealed hard copy. So there's two ways. Either the high school can send it out for you, or you can request it from your high school and send it out yourself. But if you do select to do that and send it out yourself, please make sure that you put the address correct to the university and you add a postage to the letter. As a previous college advisor, I had a lot of my students would submit their official transcripts. They wanted to independently do it. They felt more comfortable knowing that they had sent it out. But a lot of my students would forget to put a postage stamp on it, so it never got sent out. So a rule of thumb, if you do decide to send out your transcripts yourself, make sure that the address is correct to the university and that you put a postage on the envelope. And as a follow-up, contact the university within a week or two to verify that they in fact have received your official transcript. Now, if you have been working as 11th or 12th grade, if you've been working with a college representative, you can give them a hard copy of your transcript as long as it's sealed. College reps and prospective student centers are official personnel from the university. So as long as they receive your official transcript, the university has received it. So that's another way that you can, if you feel more comfortable delivering your transcript in person, that's another way that it can be done. Now, if you're a student taking dual credit, I know nowadays they offer dual credit from 9th grade all the way up to 12th grade. If you are taking a dual credit course and come senior year and you're applying to universities and you need to submit your transcript, make sure to reach out to the college that you're getting the credit from for your dual credit class. You will also need to go to that institution and request your transcript to be sent to the university. You want to make sure that you also get credit for those classes that you're taking. And I have a quick little video that I want to show y'all in regards to transcripts. So she does a really good job at explaining it as well. And let me know if you guys are not able to hear it.
Arnulfo, I don't know if the video's playing. Can you hear it on your end?
Yes.
Yeah, we're not hearing it out here.
Oh, you guys can't hear it? Okay. So this is what I'll do. After the presentation, I will email, there's like 2 real good videos on here that I would like for y'all to listen to. So after the presentation is over, I will email these to everybody that attends. Does that sound good?
Perfect. I'm wondering, because you have your headset in, if for some reason it's not portraying out to the audience or something.
Okay. Would you like to try it without the headset, or would you like for me to continue?
We have, if you want to try that, and if it doesn't do any different, then we can go to plan B where we email it out. Again,
Okay,
it may just be coming through on your headset and not coming out to the audience.
Yes, hold on. Let me take off the headset really quick. I apologize. Can you hear it?
No, we still can't hear it. So it's also lagging. So I just wonder, it may be better for whatever reason. See if you start it back over from the beginning. And
Okay.
if not, then it just may be an internet connection issue with it coming off YouTube.
All righty, let me try it one more time.
No, unfortunately, I don't think something's not working. I know we just did a video right before that worked. So I guess go ahead and keep going, and we'll just play those videos. We'll try the other one you have later, see if it
Okay.
works. Otherwise, you can email those out.
All right, perfect. Sounds like a plan. Alrighty, guys, so testing. There's 3 types of college tests that can be used depending on the type of university that you're applying to. If you are applying to a 4-year university, this is like your Texas A&M University, Texas A&M Kingsville, UTSA in San Antonio, or U of H in Houston. A lot of these four-year universities will accept both the ACT or the SAT. I highly recommend that juniors start taking this assessment their spring or fall of their junior year. If you are a current senior, I recommend taking it as soon as the first tests that are being offered, either in August or October. Always, the thing is that these tests take about 3 to 4 weeks to get the results. So you always want to compare it to when the deadlines are for the application. So if you are applying to a university and the deadline is in December, and it does take you about 3 to 4 weeks to get the results, you might want to take it about a month or two before the deadline of the application. You want to allow yourself some time to be able to receive those scores and stay away from, for whatever reason, or for anything that could happen that would get those scores from getting to you and you submitting them to the university. For a two-year college or a junior college, they normally require the AccuPlacer. In high school, you will start hearing TSI. TSI to take dual credit courses, or TSI if you're going to junior college, but the name is the actual, it's called the AccuPlacer. If your school is a testing site for either one of these tests, you can take them there on your campus on a Saturday. Now, if your school is not a testing site, when you register for the assessment, you might have to go to a neighboring district and take the test there. So just take that into consideration. Find out if your school offers the SAT, the ACT, or the TSI on your campus. Now, if they do not, then you might have to go to another neighboring district and take the assessment there. The awesome thing about the two-year college assessment, the TSI, is that those are instant results. So as soon as you finish the assessment and completing the test, it'll give you your scores. Unlike the SAT and ACT, those take about 3 to 4 weeks for you to get the results. So just take that, keep mindful of how long it takes to get the scores from ACT and SAT when taking the assessment. So rule of thumb, I always recommend juniors to take the SAT and ACT early. Normally within 3 or 4 weeks, you should get your results. If you know what the scores are for the university that you're applying to and your scores aren't quite there, then it allows you some time to prep and study a little bit more, and then for you to take that the assessment as well. If you are a free and reduced campus, like I said previously, there are waivers for these tests. Normally for the SAT, it's about $64.50 each time that you take the test. The SAT will average $58.50. There's not a big difference in pricing, just a couple of dollars there. But you know, they do get pricey. They add up if you're taking these tests more than once. So by finding out if your district is free and reduced, and if you qualify, you may get waivers, up to 2 waivers for each of these assessments. So that's 2 times that you can take these tests without having to pay for it. Now, that if you decide to take it a 3rd time, then you might have to pay out of pocket if you are not free and reduced. Now, if you're not, if your district is not free and reduced, then this is a cost. It's something you might have to sit down with your parents, or just if you had a summer job, then this is something that might, it's going to cost. Just a little quick reminder, just an FYI with the TSI. This one's normally required by the junior colleges. You can get accepted to a junior college without taking your TSIs, but you will have to take some remedial courses. Now, some of these remedial courses can average from $100 to $300 depending on the college that you're going to. So you know, on average, if you do take the TSI, that test will cost about $30, depending on the testing center that you go to. So $30 versus $300. I would recommend take the TSI at a testing center or there locally at your district if they're offering it to y'all. So I highly recommend y'all to take it. There are some small instances if you are going to a four-year university, specifically if you're going to the sciences or the math, and it's like accounting, they might ask you to take a subject test through the SAT. So just take into consideration that these are some assessments that you will be having to take, but make sure to plan them within your deadlines. So if a deadline is in December, you know, make sure that you plan to take the assessment way before the deadline. Do not wait till the last minute. You don't want there to have been a glitch or for whatever reason through SAT and ACT and you don't get your scores on time. And that might put a hold on your application, which could lead to maybe you not, you know, being accepted on time to the university. So in order to alleviate that, I recommend to test early, study, and retest if you need to with it starting junior year. That's something that I would recommend. Now, score reporting. When you take these assessments and you're registering for the test, there is a section within the application of registering that will ask you to identify the institutions or the colleges that you want to send your scores to. Please do not leave these blank. Oftentimes students do leave them blank, and when they receive their scores, they forget to send them. So sometimes that might put a hold on your application because they don't have your test scores. How do you send them out? Well, it's the same way you log in. You go to your SAT, which is collegeboard.org, or for the ACT, it's actstudent.org. You go back and you log into your account, you add your schools, and you send them. Now, your high school is not responsible for sending these scores. They do not mail or fax these scores out to the universities. You registered independently, took the assessment, and you will have to send the scores. You cannot depend on the high schools to send these for you, as they do not have access to these. Just like your official transcript, the university needs an official transcript from the high school. They will need your official scores from the organization that provided the assessment. So that would either be your SAT or ACT. So just rule of thumb, just want to make sure I put it out there. You have to send these scores yourself. This high school does not send them for you. Now, there are some universities that do offer scholarships in regards to your SAT or ACT scores. So try your best when you are taking these tests. Now, test prep resources. There are a lot of resources that are out there. I'm pretty sure you can go on Google and Google a couple of them, but I wanted just to identify some here that have been vetted. They're good resources and they're free. One of those is Khan Academy. Khan Academy can provide test prep in regards to SAT. There's a lot of other options, a lot of like for your LSAT, there's a lot of different test prep options available for you, but one of the best ones that they do have, according to reviews, is for the SAT prep. Now, another one that's free is number2.com. That's another free resource to help you prep for the SAT or the ACT. Now, I highly encourage you guys to take advantage of the free programs that are out there. Now, if you feel that you need that additional support or that you're willing to pay that extra service to get more in-depth preparation for these tests, you can, by all means, go if you can financially pay for these services, go ahead. There are some really good ones out there like Catalyst Bootcamp, Kaplan, or Princeton Review. These are other great resources. Now, these are not free. These are services that you will have to pay for, and they do have a service fee for them. But at first, try to use the free ones. See how you do with those first. Now, if you need additional support, then go ahead and I would recommend signing up for one of these paid services as well. Now, college essays, this is a big one. College essays and personal statements. Your traditional four-year universities, they, through the Applied Texas, there is a couple essays. There's 3 of them specifically. Some of your private schools might require an essay or a personal statement. Essays and personal statements provide an opportunity to share more about yourself outside from your academics. So the universities, when you're submitting your application, they're going to have your transcripts. They're going to see how you do academically. They're going to get your test scores. They're going to see how ready you are to start taking college courses. So a college essay or a personal essay, personal statement, I mean, is a great way to show them a different side of you as a person. They're going to see everything on paper, but that essay can sometimes really help you in closing the overall picture and showing them a little bit more about yourself. Now, when you're writing these essays, there's a couple people on the campus that could really help you, and those are your ELA teachers. They are an excellent resource to help guide you in better organizing your essays, reviewing for any grammar errors or punctuation errors. So I always highly recommend that if you have written your essay or your personal statement, always ask your current English teacher, or if there's an English teacher on the campus that you are more comfortable with, always ask them in advance if they can review your essay and provide any recommendations that might help you. Sometimes having that extra pair of eyes actually helps in making sure you finalize that essay. Now, one of the good things about once you have completed your essay is that some of these essays are general and just speaking about you as a person. So there are many scholarships out there that essay can kind of be used for that as well. So depending on the university that you're applying to, they have selected the type of topics that the essay that they would prefer to see. So when you apply, the application will always let you know what type of essay they're requiring. So always work on this in advance. You don't want to last minute submit an application and and they require an essay and it not be as good of an essay that paints the best picture of you. So take time, work on your essay, get it reviewed by your ELA teacher, or if there's somebody else who you are more comfortable with. I recommend always getting the second revision. And I'm going to try the video. I want to see if it works. If not, this is one of the videos that I will be sending. This is a video that was sent out through Texas A&M University, and it's an amazing video. I highly recommend this video and help guiding you in writing your essay. So let's see if it works.
Arnulfo, under your share the screen, see if there's a spot that talks about sharing audio.
Okay, let me see.
The other option might be to click on the YouTube link and then reshare the screen using that versus embedding it. Maybe when it got embedded, it took something out. So if you want to click on the YouTube link and then just share that website, and then we can go back into your PowerPoint as a share screen.
Okay,
So
let's give that a
unshare your
try.
PowerPoint, open the YouTube, share that page and see if that helps.
Can you hear that?
No, still not hearing. Are you hearing it on your end?
Yes, I can hear it on my end.
Okay, so down at the bottom where you share your screen, unshare your screen, turn that off, like when you shared, and go back to just, yeah. Now try to reshare your screen and make sure when you share it, if it should say something about sharing audio too,
Okay, let me check real quick.
and see if that fixes it. Like I said, I know Natalia's worked earlier, so I'm not sure what the difference is.
Oh, okay. Yes, there's a button
Okay,
right there.
perfect. So try that and see if we can get it to work.
We love to see students
There we go.
on a single thing.
Awesome. Okay, so let me play it for y'all again. Let me know if you need the audio a little higher.
Writing admissions essays can be nerve-wracking. So here's some advice from your friends at Aggie Bound. Don't sweat it. This is a chance to tell your story. And who better to tell that story than you? Sure, your class rank and test scores are parts of that, but those are just two pieces of a larger puzzle. What's missing is a very important piece. You. The greatest, awesomest parts of you. And you are not just a number in a stack of applicants. You've got something that sets you apart. Maybe you didn't get that perfect score on the SATs, but you were a leader in your community. Whatever community that may be, you rocked it. That one thing that got your blood racing, you pursued it to the fullest. We love to see students pour their soul out on a single thing. It shows passion. It shows they were born to be Aggies. And maybe you weren't quite in the top 10% of your class, but you worked hard outside of the classroom. When you weren't hitting the books, you were maintaining a part-time job. Your family depended on you. No matter the hardship or financial problem, you were their rock. Tell us how, because of those struggles, you grew to be someone amazing. Whatever moves you, you have that something that would make the world awesome. If only Texas A&M would take a chance on you. Putting all that into writing can be a head-spinning task. But just remember, don't sweat it. Own it. Who knows your story better than you?
So yes, let me take it back to the PowerPoint.
It's a very important.
There we go. So yes, awesome video. I love this video. It tells students that, shares more stuff about you in regards to just academics. There's some things that, everybody has a different story, and sometimes, it's just numbers and testing scores and grades. Sometimes you just want to add a little bit more character to your application, let them know a little bit more about you. If there's some things that that you've gone through, but you still overcome, and you're still this excellent student, showcase that in your essays. Let them know. It's almost like humanizing a little bit, making your application a little bit more human versus it just being academics and test scores. So if you have a really good essay, always just get it reviewed by your ELA teachers or family members who know you a little bit better. Those are just some tips. In this video, when I came across this video, I'm like, this is amazing. This is like the perfect tips in completing your essay or even your personal statement on your beliefs and what your philosophies are.
Peace. You.
The next is letter of recommendations. While you're in the process of submitting your applications, some universities might ask you for a recommendation letter. Traditionally, we always go to our counselors or teachers, which is totally fine, but consider sometimes maybe your local, if you're religious and you go to a Catholic church or a Christian church, ask your priest, or if you have a mentor or an advisor, someone who's been guiding you through high school or knows you a little bit more, ask them to speak a little bit about you in your growth and stuff. One of the things that I've been told by different admission counselors from different universities is, don't ask your family members to write a recommendation letter for you. They will never speak ill about you. You're always great. You're always amazing. So that's already expected from your family members, unless you have a special circumstance and you feel strongly that, no, my family member, this specific family member needs, I would want them to write a recommendation letter, then go ahead and do so. But rule of thumb is, do not ask family members. They're always going to say you're amazing, you're great, and how you're a great individual. And that's already expected. The other type is counselor letters. When a recommendation letter from a counselor's perspective, they will describe the student holistically, especially if you've had the counselor from like 9 through 12 and they've seen your growth within those 4 years. They can speak about your character or you as a person holistically as a whole. When you ask a teacher to write a recommendation letter, oftentimes they will write a letter in the perspective of you as a learner in the classroom. So how you are a leader, how you accomplish tasks, how you overcome obstacles within the class, or how you are a great learner, how they've seen you struggle, but then you've improved. So that's a different perspective that teachers can give versus counselors. Counselors can, speak on your behalf or give a recommendation letter to you holistically, just an overall perspective. When a teacher will give you more of an in-classroom, learner in the classroom type of recommendation. Another one is, if you do have a counselor, if you do ask a counselor to write a letter for you, that's great. And if you ask a teacher, perfect. But you always want to have a recommendation from a different perspective. You don't want, oftentimes, if you ask counselors or teachers very last minute, they will ask you, and it happens a lot. They will ask you, can you give me a resume? Can you give me some things that you want me to talk about? Well, oftentimes when you do that, the recommendation letters that you get back are oftentimes similar. So now you have you have a counselor and a teacher, but describing the same experiences or going over the clubs that you put on your resume letter. So it's always a good idea to get a different perspective. So oftentimes counselors or teachers will let you read the letter, so that way you can send it out. Well, sometimes they will put it in an envelope and they'll send it out themselves. So just best rule of thumb, if you do ask a counselor or a teacher, make sure to ask someone who actually authentically knows you, and not because half of the school is asking that teacher for a recommendation because they're a real good writer. So take that into consideration. I'm going to show you guys another quick little video about letter of recommendations. And hopefully this one works.
Many colleges ask for a letter of recommendation from a teacher. So, who should you ask? Ideally, choose a teacher from your junior year who taught you in a core academic subject: English, history, math, science, or world language. Ask yourself the following questions. Which teacher knows you best? Who can speak to your growth over time? The best letters don't necessarily come from the teacher who gave you an easy A. Who saw you work for it? Who saw you push through a challenge? Give as much notice as possible to the teachers you intend to ask, as early as the end of your junior year or beginning of senior year. Final tip, don't forget to send a thank you note.
Yes, final tip, never forget to send a thank you letter. Sometimes these teachers and counselors, they're very busy, especially if they're your 12th grade English teachers. It seems like half the school is always asking them to do recommendation letters. So let them know with ample time, and if they do write a letter for you, please send them a thank you. They do take time out of their day to write on your behalf and to recommend you to the universities. So as a small thank you, it's always great to give them a little letter or just acknowledge them and thanking them. That's just always the best practice, and I highly recommend it.
Many colleges ask for a letter of recommendation from a teacher. So, who should you ask?
I gotta hear myself.
Ideally, choose a teacher from your junior year who taught you in a core academic subject, English, history.
Okay, there we go. So yes, just as a quick overview, the application, I'm sorry. Just as a quick overview, the requirements for the universities are your application. You have the applied Texas, the common application, and your individual college applications. Now, some schools will have fees. Traditionally, your two-year colleges will not have an application fee, but your four-year colleges will. And those can range from free to $75 or in between. So when you are applying, make sure and look to see what the cost is to applying at that university. Transcripts, 2 years and 4-year colleges, they all will require your transcript. Sometimes they will ask for an unofficial when you're submitting your application, but once you've applied and you've gotten accept, they will ask for your official transcript. So make sure to send those. Just an FYI, if you are a dual credit student, make sure to reach out to the institution that you're getting the dual credit course from, that they also send out your transcripts to that university. Testing scores, 2-year colleges, they traditionally take the TSI. You don't have to have that assessment, but if you don't, you will be taking remedial courses to supplement that test. So I always recommend take the TSI if it's being offered on your campus. For a 4-year college, it's SAT and ACT. There's some universities who will ask for the TSI. They want to see how you score specifically in certain subjects. So just keep that in mind when you are taking these tests for the colleges. Identify if it's a 2-year and 4-year and see what the requirements are for that college. The essays are traditionally for your 4-year universities. A lot of your 2-year colleges will not require an essay, but they are required by your 4-year colleges. Some of them don't, but the majority of them do, and they will let you know what the topics are in regards to the essay that they're wanting. Letter of recommendation, 2-year colleges do not require them, but if they do allow or they do accept recommendation letters, I always ask if you can submit one if it helps you. If it doesn't add more content to your application, there's no need to submit one, but if it does, submit it, and it should help. A lot of your 4-year colleges, the same thing. Some of them will require one, some of them will not. Some of them do allow that option. If you feel like you want to submit one, it allows you to submit one. One of the last things I have on here is interviews. I didn't go over interviews. Normally, these are for your private schools. Once you submit an application and they're considering or they've accepted you to the university, they might want to have an interview. That might be part of their process. Traditionally, that doesn't occur at all 4-year or 2-year colleges, but I wanted to make sure to put that in here at the end just to make note that expect that. Expect if you are applying to a private university, there might be an instance where they might want to have a one-on-one interview with you. And it's not a really formal, it's more they want to get to know you as a person. It's almost like your essay where you're talking about yourself and giving them more information, but they like to do these in person. So that might be one of the requirements, depending on the institution that you're applying for. But yes, those are the basic college application one-on-one requirements for the universities for 2 years and 4-year colleges in the state of Texas. Now, I know I just want to throw out a disclaimer here. I know due to certain, circumstances that have, nowadays due to COVID-19, traditionally the application and all the requirements have stayed the same. It's always best to check with the institution or the university that you're wanting to apply to if they might extend the deadline to submit your application. All the universities, they have stayed the same, but if they've changed, it's always a best practice. Look on their website, see if there's any updates. I know a lot of the universities have social media. Sometimes they put that information out if they've extended the deadline or not. It's so I always recommend check with the university's website and see if they've changed the deadlines.
Okay, Arnulfo, I'm going to go and kind of scroll back through the chat. You had a couple of questions that came in while you were speaking. So let's see if we can address those, and then we can open the floor as well to other questions. So yes, one question that came in is, let's see where it, I lost it now. Oh, 4-H project leaders or club managers can provide good letters of recommendation if they have known you for a long time. How many recommendation letters should one get, however?
It's always great to have about 3. You don't need 3. You need at least 2 good ones that speak on your behalf. But if you do end up, traditionally, a lot of individuals do get one from their counselor. By doing so, we recommend just to get an outside perspective for, and not just from the district or the schools. So yeah, your 4-H leaders or your club managers, if they've been with you and they've seen your growth, that's an outside perspective, and that's actually would be a great recommendation letter if they could write one for you.
Going back up to when you were talking about PSAT and TSI scores, yes. Some were talking about how they were exempt from the TSI because of their PSATs. Can you address that as well?
Yes. Some universities do have an exemption for SAT and ACT. So if you get a certain score with the SAT or the ACT, you can be exempt from taking those other assessments. You're right. Correct. And those will be on the university's websites. When you go to the admissions office website for the college that you're interested in applying to, if you go, there should be a testing section. When you go to that testing section, it will let you know what the requirement is, so you won't have to take the TSIs.
Some other questions came in regarding young people that are in a homeschool environment, so they don't have a school counselor, things like that. Maybe some tips and things people maybe they should reach out to in their communities, like I said, if they're in a homeschool environment, so that they make sure they get all the information they need.
Yes, so when I said earlier for like recommendations, if there's a special circumstance, and normally that would be a special circumstance, but across the board in regards to scores and the applications, I know in 2015, Senate Bill 1543 was passed. So there should be a uniformity in testing and the same process for homeschool students to traditional students that go to a public high school. But yes, when it comes to recommendation letters, like I said, I think I mentioned it previously, was like local community programs, anybody outside that can provide more content to your growth as a student.
What about obtaining a transcript if you're a homeschool youth? What type of documentation will they need?
Oh, that is something, yes. In regards to your transcript, you would need to reach out to the admissions office at the institution. Each institution has already set up their own requirements and guidelines for information that they will request from you. They already have certain, as a homeschool student, they have a certain, depending on the information you provide to the university, they can give you what your, I guess, your ranking or your scoring, or basically what your ranking would be as a homeschool student. I know if you do that's through the Apply Texas. If you do the common application, you will have to complete the homeschool supervisor report. The common application does have a homeschool supervisor report, and that would be some of your private schools. Some of your public schools, you would have to contact the admissions office, and they will have certain requirements that they will request from you, some documents that you would need to submit.
And Arnulfo, I think you addressed this, but just to make sure we covered it, someone did ask, do they need to do an Apply Texas and the Commons School or the Commons app when they apply, or is that dependent upon where they're going?
It's dependent on where you're going. Most schools in Texas, it's Apply Texas. It's almost like the Common App, but the Texas version of it. So for the state of Texas, you can do the Apply Texas. For your smaller schools, like your junior colleges or your community colleges, sometimes they have their own in-house application that you can kind of fill out in the office and submit it in person. They also will have it online on their website that you can complete and email back to the university. The common application is mainly for those schools, like if you're traditionally wanting to go out of state, or if there's some like private schools in Texas that you want to apply to, they will offer the option to do Apply Texas or the Common App. So you just need one application, but some private universities will allow all versions just to make sure that students have the opportunity of applying.
Another question that came in is said, would you recommend applying during your junior year of high school?
You will only apply your junior year if you're going to be an early graduate. If you're not an early graduate, I would not be applying. You're already, you can create an account. That would be different from actually applying to the university. Junior year, you can create your account and start working on your application. Just not submitting it, because it wouldn't count.
If someone has a question that's not in the chat, or one that we missed in the chat, if you'll raise your hand, there should be a reaction button at the bottom that allows you to put a thumbs up. We can unmute you, turning on the feature, so you should be able to unmute yourselves and ask a question
Yes.
if, again, we haven't addressed it in the chat. So if you have any questions, please do so. Those of you that may be jumping off, make sure you filled out the check-in sheet, the link that was sent earlier, so that we have an accurate record of who participated. Someone asked a question, what if you took the TSI your freshman year of high school? Do you take it again your senior year?
If you took it your freshman year and you passed, normally the TSI has 3 sections to it. If you took it your freshman year, traditionally you'll take it because you're taking a dual credit course. And when you're taking a dual credit course, you only need one specific section or 2 sections, depending on your district, to pass in order to take the dual credit course. So speak with your counselor. If you took it at the high school, speak with your counselor and see which sections you pass. If you took it at a testing center, reach out to the testing center and ask them for a copy of what your scores were and if you passed all 3 sections. But yes, if you took your TSI your freshman year, those grades are, if you passed all 3 sections, then you passed all 3 sections. You've qualified for the TSI.
Okay, another question that came in is, do you recommend that they take both the ACT and SAT?
Traditionally, students always do better on one than the other. I've always recommended take both and see which one you do best on. The one that you have a higher score in, retake that one and do the test prep and retake the assessment. Especially if you do qualify for free and reduced, you get 2 free waivers for each test. So why not take both tests for each, take the SAT twice and the ACT twice if you can. Now, if you don't qualify for the free and reduced free waivers, then that's just a judgment call on y'all's end, but I do recommend take them both, and whichever one you do better on, try to take some test prep on that assessment and see if you can get a higher score depending on the that you're trying to apply to.
Okay,
yeah,
Faith, go ahead, keep going.
No. I was just saying, yeah, if you have the ability to take both assessments, take them both. Highly recommend it.
Perfect. Faith Nance has her hand raised, so I'll unmute her so she can ask you a question.
Perfect.
Faith, you should be able to talk if you still have a question. And maybe she didn't have a question. So
yeah.
Anyone else have questions? Oh, it won't allow me. It should. Okay, she's going to give her a second. She does have a question.
Okay. All right, no problem.
You should be unmuted now, Faith. While we're waiting on Faith, does anyone else have any questions? I said you can either unmute yourself and ask or pop it in the chat.
I do want to say for the other grade levels that are not in 11th or 12th grade and are in the process of submitting an application or trying to find out what all you would need for an application, right now it's a great time for you to start doing some career interest inventories or just exploring universities or doing virtual college trips online and just seeing what's out there and finding out in what your interests are, what you might want to study, which universities are appealing to you, so that way you can start creating your list. Try to find those top 10 schools that you're interested in. I know every year they might switch, but when it comes to it, you're in 11th grade when you're already starting to narrow down your list. You already have a list, and you can kind of go over what the universities are about, they offer, and if it's something of interest to you. So that's something I do recommend for the other grade levels. start looking at the universities, start looking at their websites, take some free assessments online, personality tests, and see what kind of careers you might be interested in. That's always just a best practice, just exposure to the universities. So when it comes to actually applying, you've already been exposed to some of these colleges and you already know some of this information. So I commend y'all for the lower class grade levels for attending and trying to learn more about the application. So it just shows you're on the right path.
Ms. Nance, are you able to talk right now? I see that you were able to rejoin the room.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. It kicks me from the chat, and I guess I have poor Wi-Fi connection over here. But my question was basically, he was talking about some applications that we had to use to, I guess, apply. And so whenever, sorry, I stutter a lot. Whenever you're going into the idea of going to a college that you really like, does the time you sign up or fill out the application forms, does that reflect your personality, or I guess your availability to the college, or does that make them less interested if you do it later?
Okay, no, it does not, but there are some priority deadlines. For example, I don't want to say the wrong information for a specific university, but let's say, for example, there's a university, the deadline is in December, but they have a priority deadline in October. So all the students that do apply by October, not only are you trying to apply for admissions, but you're also trying to apply for any scholarships that are available at that university that you might qualify for. So even though you don't apply in October, you can still apply in November for the general December final deadline, for example. So it doesn't look bad on your behalf if you apply early or late. It's your preference. If you do want to apply, I recommend always apply as early as you can and meet that priority deadline. So that way you're also considered for any scholarships that are being offered through the institution. Even though you can still apply afterwards, after that deadline, just for the general, just final deadline. But I do recommend, if you can do it early, don't wait, submit it early. Just increase your chances of not only for admissions, but also for any other opportunities in regards to maybe scholarships that could be provided to you by the university.
Oh, sorry about that though.
Hopefully that helps.
Okay, another question that came in was, do you think that the ACT and SAT will be required in future years due to COVID-19? So what does your crystal ball look like there, Arnulfo?
So yes, I have been seeing online, some institutions have been waiving the testing scores. That is all gonna depend on the College Board and SAT. If those programs or the companies that are offering this test, if they're able to offer the testing, then I can see universities still requiring them. But if there's we've had this, a lot of these seniors right now, they weren't able to take a lot of these assessments in the spring. Some schools have started to waive those testing requirements. But yeah, it's hard to tell. Yeah, I really, I don't want to say yes or no, but yeah, it's all going to depend. It's going to depend on the environment that we're in coming up. So if social distancing becomes another big issue, or it's still an issue, but if it continues due to COVID-19 and students are not given the opportunity to take the ACT or the SAT, then I don't see why the schools will be requiring that requirement. But if they are going to be offering those tests, then I could see them requiring it. So we're still waiting to see. Yeah, I don't think that's a straightforward answer, but it's
Does anyone else have any questions? Again, you can pop them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask Arnulfo directly.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So with this year's admissions with COVID-19 and everything, do you think A&M in particular will waive any scores or anything? I mean, like, does that give anybody an advantage, not having a score or having a score due to COVID-19 circumstances?
I don't know specifically if A&M is waiving the SAT. I know they will be taking that into consideration, especially if you were not able to take the assessment due to social distancing. I would need to, I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. I would need to check with the university to see if they've come out with a final decision, if they are taking that into consideration or not. I would assume that they would, but I can't speak for the university in regards to admissions. So yeah, I think that would be a case by case.
Okay.
Yeah, that does. That wouldn't really answer your question, but yeah, I really don't know the answer, to be honest.
Thank you anyways.
Yes.
Haley, I know, just speaking from personal experience, I know some kids that have looked into applying to A&M this summer. There is a website they have created that covers kind of where they're at as far as application, when it's planned to open. So as soon as I can find that, I can kind of get that to you. But if you go out on the A&M website, you may be able to find it faster than me. But there has been some information that specifically A&M has released in regards to those incoming freshmen for fall of 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? We will actually end this session, and then everyone, y'all can just rejoin into the waiting room before 1 o'clock for those of you that are continuing on for the scholarship presentation. We're going to take a lunch break and, like I said, restart everything at 1 p.m. And Haley, I'll see if I can find that link and send that to you as well. I'm not finding it right now, but there is a specific section that they've developed for incoming freshmen for A&M that talks about when the application deadline is and opens, and requirements for ACT and SAT. Again, I only know that because my niece is currently in the process of submitting her application.
Yes, and I guess a rule of thumb that would be for a lot of the other universities as well. Just double check with your admissions. They should have a website just kind of with updates in regards to the effects of COVID-19 and with the process for current seniors that are trying to become freshmen at the universities. I know I've seen other universities. I wasn't just up to date for the one at A&M, but yeah, I've seen other universities that also have a COVID-19 update in regards to admissions. So yes, just as a rule of thumb,